Silence and Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on our agenda is items of interest, recognition, and inquiry. Board of Education members.
I would just like to take a moment to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Absolutely. Administration, Dr. Skolka.
Yes, as we leave for break, two of our employees will not return from break. Vicki Zimmer is an administrative assistant in the personnel office, and Vicki is retiring. She has 16 years of service in the district, in the personnel office, getting here at 6 a.m. every morning to ensure that our classrooms have substitute teachers, and managing all other aspects of the accounting of personnel and time. But I think what some folks don't remember was that she was also a sub-bus driver for 5 years, from 1990 to 1995, and so we wish her well in her retirement. Same goes for Michelle Harachian, who will also leave the district after 24 years of service, teaching at Pine River primarily in 4th and 5th grade. And Mrs. Harachian will, again, retire as of December 31st, and we wish her well as well.
I think they deserve a round of applause for that many years. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the academic spotlight. Marine City Middle School, Marine City High School, Catherine Woolman, Susan Saibula, Marine City Choirs.
Good evening, Dr. Skalka and members of the board. Along with Marine City High and Mrs. Saibula, I'm very excited to be here tonight. This is the third year in a row that we've been able to show you an example of the collaboration on our campus. We did the computer classes a few years ago, we did Science Olympiad, and tonight we're going to showcase our fine arts collaboration. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Van Dyke, our choir director, and he's going to give a little introduction.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to share with you what we're doing on our Marine City campus. For the choirs, I prepared a document for you that I'm not going to go into it really in depth. I'm going to try to highlight some of the bullets, but I want to leave some time because I brought some students with me to demonstrate some of the work that we're doing. Something that's interesting with Marine City choirs, our programming right now. In the middle school, we have our classes organized by voice, which is ideal for that age group. If you think about kids when they're like in elementary school, everybody kind of sounds the same, the boys and the girls. When you get into high school, that's not the case. So in middle school, we're dealing with that middle ground where things are developing, things are changing. And right now we have our instruction aligned so that all the treble voices, my 7th and 8th grade girls, are mixed in one class, and then I have the tenor, baritone voices mixed in the other class. And it's working great for instruction. It's really optimal. It's an optimal model for the kids. And you're going to get to hear one of those groups today sing for you. In the high school, we have our classes arranged by skill. So we have 3 different levels. We have an entry-level group, we have an intermediate level, and we have an advanced level. Because every kid needs a place to be. You know, if you're the freshman who is coming to this for the first time, very little experience, I have a place for you, and you can work at that skill level. And if you're somebody who's advanced and you're auditioning now, you're a senior, you're auditioning for college music programs, you've studied voice, you play multiple instruments, we've got a place for you too, so that everybody has a place where they can fit in and get instruction that's at the level that they need. Just to dispel a myth, sometimes people have an idea that, well, it's just choir, they're just singing, can't they just all be in one section? But they have different needs as they progress through their development. So it's important that we have those 3 different levels for the kids to engage in. We do all kinds of growth experiences for them. In 2015, we've already had 8 different concerts that we've hosted at the Performing Arts Center. I've got a whole list of things here that kids have been doing outside of that as well. We've spent time at the University of Michigan. We've spent time at Oakland University. Kids are getting to interact with university kids on campus, university directors. We go to festivals. We've got the whole list here that you can read through when you have a little bit of time. Again, I want to keep moving so I have time to share them. It's important to note that all of those things that we do, when we go to the university programs, when we go to choir festival, when I take kids to participate in honors choir, things like that, I'm learning too. And I consider that an investment in what I can do for my students. And when my leadership supports those activities and I get to go and do stuff on campus with the students, when I get to go to, for my own professional growth, like summer workshop, or when I go to the winter conference, that's an investment that then comes back and enriches the kid's life. And I take it really seriously, and I love to just keep on learning and doing more cool stuff with them, and it's just very engaging, very fun for me to do. We are academic. A lot of our upperclassmen are enrolled in their AP classes or dual enrollment. We have a lot of kids in all grades that are academically really successful. And for the kids that struggle, and we know that we have kids that do struggle, sometimes choir can be that academic lift that they need. Give them a chance to have something that they can engage in and feel successful with that can lift them through the rest of their day. All of our choirs get evaluated every year on the state standard rubric, along with all the other choirs that go to festival, and our kids are always really successful when it comes to that. We're one part of a bigger picture at our school. Choir kids are represented in almost every sport and almost every academic group. We have some kids that are just showing up from bowling this evening. We have some kids that already played a basketball game. At least one kid is in a uniform and going back to a basketball game. So we integrate with all the things that are going on, and we share students, and that's the way it's got to be. How to find us? We've got representation. I've got the teacher website that I've developed, and the address is on here. We've got a YouTube channel going now. These are some things that I've selected to put on there. And if you just search Marine City Choirs, you'll come up with a wide variety of things. But I recommend starting here with our channel. We've got a Facebook that's going. This is a picture from our fall concert for the high school. This group went to Chamber Choir Festival this fall, and we got a nice picture looking up at the tower. So this has been a great way for us to communicate, to share information, and for anybody who is seeing this presentation on television or in the audience and is interested, the document that I'm referring to is right here as well. I'll have to update that. That's the choir highlights. I'll have this document on here by tomorrow so that it's able to share and you're able to find it on there. I must have changed and put the wrong one on. Looking forward, recommendations for the program. It's really important that we keep this structure the way it is, as I explained, with the kids having the advanced course and the beginning course and arranged by voices. So as long as enrollment allows for that, that's really important for the kids to have. If there was a way that we could make life easier for kids who want to do band and choir in middle and high school, if there's anything that we can do to solve that problem for it, it's very challenging. I understand it's a state policy issue, but anything that we can do to ease that for them would be great. Right now, we don't have a course offering for students in 6th grade. I'd be really pleased to develop that and make this available for kids who are in 6th grade. They could enjoy that participation during that year, plus for students who stay engaged in music and perhaps want to go on in the arts later, having that extra year of development can make a big difference. Professional accompanist services benefit the students. I put a couple of notes in here about that. If there was an opportunity for us to find a way to provide that, it's not a huge expense, but it does affect a lot of kids, and it's something that could be a positive investment. So probably enough talking by me. I would like to bring in some of the students and share some work with you, and I think we're rearranging because they'll be here in front of you. somebody too, but leave it. Okay. Normally we perform on risers, so we're working on our spaces there a little bit. When we get back into the very next section. Perfect, yeah, perfect, attitude. All right, I described how in the middle school our voices are, our students are arranged by voice type, so it lets us focus on what we need for each of the different voice types. So this is our tenors and baritones. We call this our young men's ensemble. Our first song is called Joshua. Guys, have fun with this.
Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, Jericho. Sing it over now. Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, and the walls come tumbling down. You may talk about your king of Gideon, you may talk about your man of Saul, but there's none like good old Joshua at the battle of Jericho. Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, Jericho. Sing it over now. Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, and the walls come tumbling down. Now Joshua rose in the morning light, and the trumpet began to sound. Then he marched right down to the city streets as the people all gathered round. Then they marched to the walls of Jericho. Then he marched with the spear in hand. Then Joshua commanded all the children to shout to the sound of a heavenly band. Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, Jericho. Sing it over now. Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, and the walls come tumbling down. And the walls come tumbling down. And the walls come tumbling down. Jericho, and the walls come tumbling down.
It's a little bit weird. Go ahead and just have a seat right here, and Corral is going to come in. So I tried to choose, I see about 190 kids today, and it wouldn't be fair to bring all of them here for this program, so I tried to choose something representative. I've got one group from the middle school, one group from the high school. I definitely wanted to just see what we were doing with the young men's ensemble. It's kind of a unique thing. The next nearest school that I'm aware of that's doing that is Rochester Hart Middle School, and they've got like 1,150 kids in that school. We're around, I don't know, 380 or something like that. So it's something that I'm really proud of that we're able to do over here in this area. So this is Corral. I wanted to hear the other end of the spectrum. Here's our high school students. For the Captain Rounder. And they weren't here a minute ago. That's the thing. Our students are so busy. There's so much stuff going on. Thank you all for making it. We have a basketball game going on tonight too. Another basketball game that just ended. Thank you guys. There we go. At the Round Earth's Imagine Corner.
At the round earth's imagined corners.
entitled Stand, and our final piece on the concert was Stand Together, and I think it's just perfect for us to have it at the board meeting, as I know our district is facing all kinds of interesting choices as we take our steps forward. And so this song is called Stand Together. It's interesting because there's so many different things going on to listen to. Fun, and I hope that you guys want to have a little fun with your meeting. If you can go ba ba ba, you'll help us out. But wait for the cue. Wait for the cue. Girls, can you wave at them when it's time to chime in with the ba ba ba? This might be a little familiar.
severely impressed.
Okay, we're done.
So that probably fulfills.
Yeah. Is it good? Yeah. Must be good. Everything's good, yep. You okay? Heavily medicated. Awesome. That was amazing.
Thank you. Thanks for letting us share that. That probably fills up our time slot. I'm very happy to talk more about it. I mean, some of the bullet points that I've got listed for you, any one of those bullet points is so important. I tried to take this time to assemble my thoughts, and yeah, I could speak for hours on any of those. So if there's any questions that you have for me or anything you want to know about the program, I'd be happy to answer or follow up.
Wonderful job.
Thank you
Yeah.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Amazing, yeah.
Great.
We
Thank
need
you.
the arts.
Yeah. Yes.
It's
Absolutely.
in my bullet points there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is our consent agenda for the approval of minutes, November 23rd, 2015, regular meeting, December 3rd, 2015, special meeting, approval of payment of bills, financial statement, schedule of investments, appointment of new teacher. Motion needed?
So moved.
So moved by Mr.
Support.
Support by Mrs. Frank. Comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So carried. Next item is recognition of persons wishing to address the board. Kelly, no green cards? Okay. Reports, superintendent report, parent advisory.
We held our second parent advisory meeting a week ago today. We're struggling with attendance right now. It happened the first meeting, and we made a very concerted effort this time around to put out several reminders and continued to have weak attendance. So we're going to have to maybe have some conversations at the administrative level, and any feedback that you have as well regarding whether or not we need to restructure this group or find a different avenue by which to have parents provide feedback and input. But for those who came, we really enjoyed the opportunity to speak with them and have them hear about what's happening in different schools as well as hear what's happening in their schools. It was a nice evening. It could have been better if we had a few more folks.
Has, Dr. Skolka, has anything changed as far as how the Parent Advisory Committee is selected, time of meeting? Because in the past, we've had, I'm questioning what's the root cause of the change in attendance, because it's been very successful in the past.
Correct. We did very well my first year. Last year, it started tapering, and this year, again, we had significant drop-off in attendance. And so I know we have done nothing with respect to changing dates, times, their corresponding dates, same times. We ask our principals to identify those parents who are involved and would like to come. We contact them and ask them if they'd like to be part of the group. We just don't assume that they will be. They indicate that they would, and then it's a matter of coming. It's a busy time of year, though. I will give you that. I mean, a Monday in December, it's a tough time as everybody struggles with getting things done and shopping and all of that. So we'll continue, and I'll give you an update after our next one, which occurs in February. Okay. Great. You have information regarding the next round of bus purchases that was in your board packet. I know that it is your practice that you like to have some information one month and then approve the next for us to participate in the school bus Build a Bus program to get the best prices. We would like to approve in January, so we're presenting you some information here tonight. Again, we remember that the ballot proposal for buses was for a certain dollar amount that was estimated to purchase approximately 5 buses a year for 5 years. As it turns out, all indications are that that bus bids are coming in lower than expected, which is a good thing. So rather than having 25 buses at the end of all of this, as the information in your board packets indicated, we're hoping that that could be as high as 30. We're looking in the 28 to 30 range. We were also advised well and to issue these bonds in 2 series. So that you do have to spend, as we know, 85%, regardless of what type of bond it is. A construction bond, a tech bond, any kind of bond, you have to spend 85% of the proceeds in the first 3 years. Well, if that was the case, and we would have to, and we only did one bond issuance, one series issuance, we'd actually have to be buying 25 buses in the first 3 years, and that wasn't our plan at all. But we're issuing in 2 series, so we have to expend 85% of each series within the first 3 years. So given that, although we're recommending 5 buses again this year, as was last year, next year we will probably be coming to you with 6 or 7 buses, so as to meet that 85 bus threshold, given where bids are coming in at a favorable notion to have those extra buses. Couple of the buses this year we are purchasing with equipment storage. If you think about the old Chrysler van stow and go concept, buses are doing the same thing, and it's very helpful, especially for athletic teams, to have that kind of storage underneath. And so we want to make sure that we have a couple of those, and as again we are looking to toward the future, we will again purchase 1 of the 5 with air conditioning. We will take delivery around the same time as last year, into June, but we will not put them on the road until the new school year starts, so as to delay implementation of the warranty. Okay. Any questions on bus purchase?
I have a question, and this is in regard, we know that Michigan does not require safety belts in our school buses. Is that something that would even be an option for us to buy them with? Or because we're in this group that everything's coming into Michigan, it's not available to us?
I believe that we certainly could request that as part of the specifications. Interestingly, though, you don't think a safety belt is all that expensive. It would add significant cost to a bus.
Get a number as to what
I will do that.
would be? I know they're talking about it, about changing
Sure.
the law in Michigan to require safety belts in buses, and I wouldn't mind just knowing what the difference would be in cost.
Mm-hmm.
I would think it'd be more cost effective to do it now than to have to go back and retrofit all of them.
Well, certainly, I'll get you
Oh,
that
sure,
cost.
yeah.
I'll get you that cost. Some of the things, though, depending on the age of the child, you have to have different harnesses for different ages. So depending on how you outfit your bus, you might not be able to use a bus for a certain route, or, you know, we would use the same bus for both an elementary and a secondary route, but I will get you that information.
And we've got time
Mhm.
if there's legislation coming,
Right. The year after, we're going to be buying buses for a while.
right, but
Yeah.
it's the more we can know about what the legislation is going to look like in advance.
Sure.
Because sometimes with Michigan legislation, there's not a lot of time to react.
Right.
Anything else?
Great. Thank you very much.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Dr. Skalka, the February date for the parent advisory, do we have that yet? Can you let me know,
It's
please?
been set. All 4 have been set,
Okay.
so yeah.
You just let me know. Thank you.
Right, moving on, item 7, information discussion items. First one is 2015-16 budget revision. Ms. Tina Wiggler. Thank
Good
you.
evening, President Bewer, trustees. In your agenda package, you've been provided a detailed budget that is presented at the function level for the general fund, the cafeteria, and the latchkey funds. Tonight, I have a few slides to help summarize and identify the budget assumptions of which the budget has been presented on. So to begin with, I'd like to move back to the actual performance of fiscal year 14 and 15. Our expenditures exceeded our revenues by $87,000, leaving us with a remaining fund balance of $4.4 million, or a percentage of fund balance to expenditures of 11.11%. Then we adopted the fiscal year 15-16 original budget. And at that point, we were anticipating expenditures to exceed revenues by $637,000, leaving us with a remaining fund balance of $3.8 million, or a percentage of fund balance to expenditures of 9.4%. In this proposed amended budget that I am presenting to you tonight, or summarizing to you tonight, expenditures are expected to exceed revenues by $1,059,748, with a remaining fund balance of $3.4 approximately million, and a projected fund balance level of 8.21%. So this slide is very, very summarized. And at this point, I'm going to kind of bring us back to the original assumptions that the original budget was based on. We originally indicated that pupil enrollment was projected to decrease by 67 students. Actual pupil enrollment decreased by 73. So we have an additional decrease of enrollment of 6 students. The foundation allowance remains at $7,718. And this slide, this is taking all the categoricals, the state aid, net of taxes, and all the changes in the 61A, the, I'm sorry, it is just, and the Headley data collection, and the net effect on that is a reduced revenues of $16,000. Now, I have specifically identified the retirement 147C monies. That is an increase in revenue of $299, or approximately $300,000, because I want to identify that these revenues have a requirement of being recorded as an inflow and an outflow. So later on in the slide, you're going to see where expenditures are being increased by the same amount. It does have a net zero effect on the fund balance, but I always like to identify this separately. Title I and Title II, GSRP, RESA PA18 funding, all those other miscellaneous revenues. There are little increases and decreases, but they are netting to a very slight decrease of just over $2,000. So out of those 3 components, you'll see in your detailed budget an increase of revenue of $281,000. Okay, moving on to the expenditures. I'm going to resort back a little bit to our original assumptions, to the original budget. We originally indicated we were expecting a decrease in instructional staffing by 3 FTEs. You've been presented tonight to hire back 1 instructional staff position. So what you'll see in this is a add back of 1 teacher for half a year. I've already touched on the decrease in the pupils. And then in the subsequent slide, I'm going to further touch on the MIPSTERS 140C and some other rate increases. But at the broad categorical function level, instruction is increasing by $266,000. Added needs, you'll see an increase at $135,000. Supporting services, it's increased at $304,000. So I'd like you to focus on the increase of $704,000 and keep in the back of your mind those pass-through funds of $300,000. At this next slide, I am displaying the expenses in a little different fashion. I'd like to look at the expenses in their activity level. So first I want to identify salaries. Out of all the salaries in your detailed budget, they are increased by $175,000. Benefits are increased at $444,000. This is representing MEA wage increases that's providing 2 furlough days back, along with the associated benefits. This is also taken into account the hiring of that teacher for a half a year. This is also taken into account the reduction in the retirement in the personnel department. Any retirements that were not when I wasn't made aware of when the original budget was developed and put in place. We've had some long-term leaves from our MEA staff. So there's a lot of activities in these two line items. And most importantly, I put an asterisk that $444,000 is including $300,000 of the MIPSers. The purchases services, that is reflecting an increase of $135,000. Now what's happening in this line item, you are seeing here some retirements that have occurred in the Teamsters Union along with the custodial. So as retirements or terminations occur, the services are then replaced by our METs or our EnviroClean. So you'll see a transition of those from salaries and benefits into the purchase services grouping. Supplies and materials. You'll see a reduction in there because we haven't experienced reduced fuel rates from last year in our transportation. So I have made some adjustments in that line item. Capital outlay is relatively flat, and other chargebacks and expenses, a minor decrease of just over $4,000. So out of all those expenses, you'll see what the $704,000 is comprised of. And that is the broad summary of the changes for the general fund. So before we move on, is there any questions on the general fund and the proposed budget amendment?
Questions?
Okay, good. This next slide is the cafeteria. I have realigned the revenues and the expenditures. We basically have been serving less meals. We've had a decrease in pupils, along with the lack of interest in purchasing meals from the cafeteria. So I've just realigned the revenues and the according expenses to that. You will see I am projecting an increase in fund balance levels by $30,000 for the end of this year. And the last fund is the latchkey. The latchkey, I have increased the revenues by slightly, $8,500. Their actuals for fiscal year 15, they were much healthier than I anticipated them to be, so I did slightly bump them up. I had the expenditures remain flat of just over $500,000 with a slight increase to their fund balance of $5,000, leaving them with a fund balance of $148,000. And that is my brief summary of the proposed budget amendment.
Questions? Anyone?
That's it.
Great, thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is our board action agenda items. Item A, per Board of Education request, the board approve delaying the implementation of the August 10th, 2015 action to close Eddy Elementary School until such time as it can be implemented in a manner less disruptive to East China School District students and staff. Motion is needed.
I'll move.
Moved by Mr. Testorat.
Support.
Support.
Go ahead.
Mrs. B. Buck. Comments or questions? Mr. Richmond.
I wanted to suggest something for the future. Potentially, I'm willing to sit down with Dr. Skalka or Mr. Buer to discuss potentially putting together a policy for future implementation of closing a school to prevent an abrupt closing, because this is the third time that this has happened in the last, I want to say, 3 years. So with Riverview being included as another example. So when two things happen, that's one thing, but since it's the third time, I think that we should look into potentially, I don't know, looking into a policy to prevent this from happening again and to be more consistent.
Something to look at. Anything else?
No.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So carried. Item B, the Board of Education requests the board direct administration to continue to provide the board with information regarding a redistricting plan that allows for more balanced distribution of students throughout the district.
So
Motion-
moved.
Moved by Mrs. Frank,
Support.
support by Mrs. Murphy. Comments or questions?
I think when we discussed that some
Yes.
last meeting, we just want to be long-sighted on this. I think the number we threw out there was a 3 or 5 year plan.
I agree with that. I think it's important too that as we move forward with whatever 5-10 year plan, that we get our community involved as much as we can as far as sharing information about enrollment, about our deficit, trying to get input. I think that's an important part of us looking at our next 10 years.
Mr. Richley?
No, I read something in the paper, which it makes sense, but it's that we already made this motion. I believe Mrs. Frank and I think Mrs. Murphy, I can't remember for sure, but back in January or something like that, made almost the exact same motion. So I don't know. I'm not sure why we have to make another motion to do the same thing.
That motion was tied in with the closing of Eddy. With us postponing the closing of Eddy, we felt it necessary that we continue in direct administration on the same course path. Since we're postponing closing Eddy, we still want to look at redistricting.
Right, but that was,
We're just
If I-
separating the two.
well, it was separate in the motion. There were 3 different or 4 different things in the motion. Back, I can't remember exactly when it was, but
Well, and that I think is the issue. If you can't remember and if you can't cite the exact motion, then we're not sure that exactly it occurred as you're indicating. So it would make sense that we continue with what is presented here that was discussed at the workshop for no other reason than, again, to reinforce the concept.
it was in the minutes though, just, I mean, but.
We just want to continue to direct administration because of we are not closing Eddy to continue doing this. We talked about it at the last 2 meetings. So we want, they go hand in hand, but it may be different with us not closing Eddy.
Well, they don't really go hand in hand, and I think that's the reason that we separated them all out is because they are different objectives. So the motion, or the idea of the motion at the workshop was that these items be separated so that they could be addressed individually and not as one motion combined together. And it was my understanding that the redistricting is something that we were going to look at doing for this coming school year, this new school year. So that's how I remember the board workshop, and the reason that these have been taken and putting into line individual items.
Just one more thing. Without closing a school, I don't see the necessity, unless you're talking about secondary boundaries. But with elementary boundaries, I don't see the purpose of moving those around if there isn't a school closed.
Well, there is a purpose, and it's called equity, and we've been talking about it for ever since I've been on the board. So I'm sorry you missed those conversations, but there is a need for it.
Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item C, recommended action per Board of Education request the board direct administration to continue moving forward with the May 2nd, 2016 bond proposal to address facility and classroom instructional technology needs. Motion needed.
So moved.
Support.
Moved, supported. Comments, questions?
No.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item D, recommended action. Per administration recommendation, the Board of Education approves the application for preliminary qualification of bonds as presented and reviewed.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Frank,
Support.
support by Mrs. Murphy. Comments, questions?
This is just for the public to understand. This is one of the behind-the-scenes steps that the board has to take in order to put the measure on the ballot. We met last week with representatives of Treasury up in Lansing to make sure that everything was properly described in the pre-qualification application, and upon approval here this evening, tomorrow we FedEx it back to Treasury for their final approval.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carried. E, recommended action. Per administration recommendation, the Board of Education adopt the 2015-16 general fund cafeteria latchkey budget at the function level as revised, reviewed and presented at its December 4th, 2015 regular meeting.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Mr. Kennick-Bauer and Mrs. Beba, comments or questions?
I just have a question. Did we see this last board meeting?
No,
Don't we typically get it one meeting and then we vote on it the following meeting, or am I confused?
no, normally that is the case. With the
Okay.
budget revision, it has been the case that we have been providing you that information at a meeting and then approving it at that meeting so we can continue with the financial operations. You know, if you so choose to table, we'll
Well, I mean, if we were to table it so that we'd have the month to review everything, is that going to cease operations?
no.
Well, I think maybe we should continue doing it the way we've always done it. I don't understand why we're
Okay.
varying from that policy.
I would question, do we have to have that vote before end of December?
Yeah, so, right.
No.
Because our next meeting won't be until January.
No.
Okay.
No. In fact, there's been years in which your first revision came in January
Mhm.
rather than December.
Mhm.
We're trying to just meet those timelines, but that's okay. Certainly okay.
Okay, I would like to do that if everybody else is okay with it.
I'm fine with it.
I think you need a motion then to table and second and so forth and so forth.
Motion to table the proposed recommendation. Mrs. Frank,
Yes, so moved.
supported.
Support.
Mr. Kennick-Bauer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item 9, items for the January 25th, 2016 agenda, Fall Athletic Awards, approval of the 2016 bus purchase proposal, and board officer elections.
I'd like to add one more item, and that is we were notified today, or last Friday and/or today. I got my message today from MDE that they will be releasing M-STEP results this week, and we're going to get those hopefully in the mail before we leave for the holidays. We'll coordinate the mailing home if we get those before the holidays. So given the fact that that's the notification we've been given, we would like to present M-STEP results in a presentation to you in January.
Great.
Please do.
Mr. Buer?
Yes.
Could I potentially, between now and then, get something about that policy on closing schools and the language in for next month? Well, I mean, not to vote on, but to consider.
If indeed, again, I can't speak for President Buer, but in my mind, you initially proposed that as a workshop between the three of us to try to draft something like that. I would think that that would be necessary before any language came before the board.
Okay. Thank you.
With that, we stand adjourned. Thank you. Merry Christmas. God's blessings to everyone over the holiday season.